Jax's revenge domain. The text came at 9:15 a.m. No sender name, just a number I didn't recognize and 5 words that made my blood run cold. Conference room 7B. Now, urgent. I'm Gerald Morrison, 49 years old, and I've been reading danger signals since my Navy days. This wasn't a routine meeting request. This was an execution order. I was sitting in my office at Blackstone Financial Group, reviewing the Henderson portfolio numbers one more time. $47 million in new business closed 3 weeks ago after 6 months of relationship building. Not bad for a guy who traded his Navy whites for pinstripe suits 15 years ago. Before that, I delivered 11 straight quarters of growth, each one building on the last like a well-executed naval campaign. But something felt wrong in the operational environment today. The receptionist hadn't made eye contact when I walked in this morning. Deanna Coleman from HR was lurking near the elevators like she was conducting surveillance. And now this anonymous summons to conference room 7B, the same room where they'd terminated Rodriguez from accounting last month. I twisted my Naval Academy class ring twice, an old habit when the mission parameters suddenly changed. Then I locked my computer, straightened my tie, and prepared for whatever ambush was waiting. The walk to conference room 7B felt like crossing a minefield. I passed Patricia Denver's office, door cracked, whispering to someone with that fake, concerned voice she uses when she's about to sink a ship. Same tone she'd used when she told Martinez from sales that his role was being restructured. Corporate speak for we found someone cheaper. Patricia had been my direct superior for the past 4 years, ever since the reorganization that put business development under operations. She was competent enough, but she lacked what we called command presence in the Navy. The kind of leadership that makes people want to follow you into battle instead of just following orders because they have to. Martinez saw me coming and literally ducked into the supply closet. Guy I'd mentored for 2 years taught him how to build client relationships from scratch. When your own people start avoiding you, that's intelligence you can't ignore. I made a quick detour to my office and opened the locked filing cabinet. Inside was my employment contract, all 9 pages of it, including the amendments I'd negotiated during my 3rd-year review when they tried to restructure my commission plan. I flipped to Section 12, subsection D, the honor clause. Most people assumed I named it that because of some sentimental military connection. They were wrong. I called it the honor clause because it was designed to protect against exactly the kind of dishonorable conduct that corporations specialize in when they think nobody's watching. The language was specific and ironclad. In the event of involuntary termination within 48 hours of a scheduled equity vesting event, employees shall receive immediate acceleration of all unvested equity. Double the standard payout amount, plus penalty damages calculated at 50% of final year compensation. Rick Callahan had signed it himself back when he was still VP of Strategic Planning before the board promoted him to CEO last year. We'd served together on the USS Constellation, 2 tours, 3 years total. I'd trusted him with my life more times than I could count. He'd made jokes about me being paranoid like all you Navy strategists when I insisted on the clause. Funny how paranoia looks a lot like preparation when the shooting starts. I folded the contract pages into my leather portfolio and headed for conference room 7B. The corridor felt longer than usual, like walking the gangplank on a ship you'd served faithfully for 12 years, because that's how long I'd been at Blackstone, building their business development program from a 2-person department into a $200 million annual pipeline. Conference room 7B had the blinds drawn, never a good tactical sign. Rick was sitting at the head of the table, flanked by Patricia and 2 HR representatives who looked like they'd rather be processing insurance claims in Omaha. No laptops open, no quarterly reports spread out, no performance metrics to discuss, just the corporate equivalent of a firing squad. "Jerry," Rick said, trying to sound like we were meeting for our usual Thursday golf game instead of what this obviously was. "Thanks for making time." "Always ready to support the mission," I replied, staying in the doorway. In the Navy, you never sit down until you've assessed all the exits and identified potential threats. Rick shifted in his chair, and I caught the micro-expression that betrayed his discomfort. Guy was sweating through his 300-jur shirt, and we hadn't even started the conversation yet. "Listen, I'll be direct," he continued. "We're restructuring the entire business development division. Market conditions, efficiency improvements, you know how it is." I knew exactly how it was. They were about to fire me 23 hours before my equity bonus vested, thinking they could save $2.8 million by cutting me loose before tomorrow's payout deadline. Your position is being eliminated, effective immediately. Patricia added, reading from what looked like a prepared script. This decision has been approved by senior leadership and is final. I nodded once, clean acknowledgement of orders received. No emotion, no protest, just the kind of professional bearing that had served me well through 2 decades of military and civilian service. I understand, I said calmly. I'll need to collect my personal effects and complete the transition documentation. Rick's eyes flickered with something that might have been surprise. Maybe he'd expected begging or threats or the kind of emotional meltdown that makes corporate executives feel better about their decisions. We'll need your badge and access cards, Patricia said. I handed them over without hesitation, just like surrendering your sidearm when relieved of command. Clean, professional, by the book. Just like that, Gerald Morrison was no longer VP of Business Development at Blackstone Financial Group, except that wasn't entirely accurate. Because what Rick and Patricia didn't understand, what they'd conveniently forgotten in their rush to trim payroll before my bonus vested, was that terminating me wasn't going to save Blackstone $2.8 million. According to Section 12D of my contract, it was going to cost them exactly twice that amount plus penalty damages. The honor clause wasn't just protection against getting fired. It was a financial deterrent against breach of good faith, designed to make corporate backstabbing prohibitively expensive. Double payout, immediate vesting acceleration, and penalty damages calculated at 50% of my final year's compensation, all triggered by involuntary termination within 48 hours of a scheduled equity event. But they'd discover that soon enough. I walked out of conference room 7B with the same bearing I'd maintained during my years as a naval officer, calm, professional, unflappable under fire. Rick stayed behind, probably wondering why I hadn't begged for mercy or threatened legal action or made the kind of scene that would justify their decision to security personnel. That's the fundamental difference between military-trained leadership and corporate management. We plan for every contingency, especially betrayal by people we've trusted. Instead of heading to the parking garage like they expected, I took the elevator to the 23rd floor, legal department. I'd spent considerable time up there during the Henderson portfolio negotiations, enough to identify which attorneys still operated with some semblance of professional integrity. Anthony Rodriguez was at his desk, working through what appeared to be a mountain of merger documentation. Tony was solid, former Army JAG who'd transitioned to corporate law but never lost his moral compass. The kind of lawyer who still believed contracts meant something beyond billable hours. I knocked on his door frame. Got a few minutes, counselor? He looked up, surprised to see me during what should have been my morning meetings. Jerry, what brings you to legal? Thought you were locked up in strategic planning sessions all week. Just got terminated, I said, settling into the chair across from his desk with the same matter-of-fact tone I'd used to report mission status during my Navy years. Effective immediately, no documented cause. Tony's expression shifted through several phases: surprise, concern, then something that looked distinctly like professional alarm. In corporate America, sudden terminations without legal review usually meant someone had made a catastrophic mistake. They didn't run this past our employment law team first, he said, reaching for his phone. That's what I figured. I opened my portfolio and slid the contract across his mahogany desk. Section 12D. I'd appreciate your professional assessment of the situation. Tony read the honor clause once, then again more carefully. I watched his pupils dilate slightly, a stress response you learn to recognize when people's lives depend on accurate intelligence gathering. His legal training was running collision analysis on what Blackstone had just done to itself. Jesus, Jerry. When exactly did you negotiate this language into your contract? 3 years ago, during my commission restructure. Rick initialed every page personally. Patricia signed the implementation memo and filed it with HR. Tony leaned back in his leather chair, processing the financial implications. They terminated you inside the 48-hour protection window? 23 hours before my equity vest date, almost like they calculated it deliberately. This clause. He paused, studying the language again. This is absolutely bulletproof. If they terminated you without documented just cause within the protection period, they've triggered immediate acceleration of all unvested equity, double payout provisions, and penalty damages. That matches my analysis. Tony was already reaching for his secure phone line. I need to escalate this to Helen Foster immediately. This isn't just an HR oversight. This is a potential board-level financial crisis. I'd preferred discreet handling initially, I said. No need for this to become a LinkedIn drama or industry gossip. Just want the contract enforced exactly as written. Understood completely. But Jerry, he looked at me with an expression somewhere between professional admiration and personal horror. They're not going to be able to contain this. The financial exposure is too significant, and your documentation is too comprehensive. I stood up, adjusted my jacket with military precision. Then they should have read the contract terms before they decided to abandon ship. Tony was still staring at the honor clause documentation when I walked out of his office, my footsteps echoing down the marble corridor like a countdown timer that Blackstone's executive team didn't even know had started. 45 minutes later, I was sitting in my pickup truck in the Blackstone parking garage, engine off, windows down, maintaining overwatch position. Sometimes the optimal tactical approach is staying close enough to observe how your adversaries react when they realize they've triggered an explosive device. My phone buzzed with a text from my son Jake, currently finishing his junior year at Georgetown Law. Dad, heard through campus networking that something's happening at Blackstone. Everything okay on your end? I typed back. All secure here, son. Just some standard corporate maneuvering, nothing your old man can't navigate. What I didn't mention was that his senior year tuition had just become significantly more affordable. 28 minutes after leaving Tony's office, my phone rang. Helen Foster, Blackstone's head counsel and the one person in senior leadership who still understood that contracts were legally binding documents rather than suggestions. Jerry, we need to discuss your employment situation. Are you available for a face-to-face meeting? Negative. I'm no longer a Blackstone employee, remember? Patricia made that quite clear. There appears to have been some procedural confusion regarding your termination process. We'd like to explore resolution options. I'm listening, not over an unsecured line. Can you meet me at Sterling's Steakhouse, say 1:30? Sterling's was neutral territory, expensive enough that Blackstone's corporate account could handle whatever financial discussion was about to unfold, quiet enough for sensitive negotiations, and public enough that nobody could claim the conversation never happened. I'll be there. Helen was already waiting when I arrived, seated in a corner booth with clear sightlines to all entrances. Former prosecutor, if I remembered her background correctly, she understood tactical positioning. 2 glasses of water and an unopened bottle of Macallan, 18 sat on the white tablecloth between us. She stood when she saw me approaching, offered a firm handshake with direct eye contact. I respected that kind of professional courtesy, especially when most people were probably advising her to treat me like a hostile witness. Thank you for coming, Jerry. What's the mission briefing? She smiled grimly, pouring 2 fingers of the Macallan into each glass. Your honor clause just detonated a 5-alarm crisis in our executive suite. Rick's been locked in emergency board sessions since noon. And they want to resolve this situation quietly and professionally. Full equity payout according to your original schedule, standard severance package, mutual non-disclosure agreement, clean separation, no public statements. I accepted the whiskey, noting she'd chosen the expensive bottle. In negotiation psychology, that usually meant the opening offer was going to be lower than what they were actually prepared to pay. What about the penalty provisions outlined in Section 12D? That's where the situation becomes complicated. Helen leaned forward slightly. Your clause triggers double payout plus damages. We're looking at total financial exposure of approximately $5.2 million. I nodded, sipping the whiskey. Smooth, probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Here's what puzzles me, Helen. Why initiate direct negotiations? Why not just process the contractual payout and move forward? She set down her glass carefully. Because Rick is convinced this was orchestrated, that you manipulated the timing somehow, set up the termination to trigger maximum financial damage. He's exploring options to challenge the clause as unconscionable or potentially fraudulent. Now, I had to laugh, a sound with no humor in it. Rick thinks I engineered my own firing. That's some advanced paranoia, even for corporate leadership. Did you? I met her eyes directly, the way you do when someone's life depends on your accuracy. I wrote protective language into my employment contract because I've observed what happens when corporate loyalty flows in only one direction. Rick signed that contract willingly. Patricia implemented the terms without objection. I didn't force them to terminate me 23 hours before my equity vested. But you anticipated this possibility. I prepared for multiple contingencies. That's what strategic planning means. Helen nodded slowly, processing my response like the former prosecutor she was. The board sees it exactly that way. They're not pleased with Rick's decision-making process or Patricia's due diligence failure. What happens from here? That depends entirely on your approach. We can settle this professionally through direct negotiation, or it escalates to formal arbitration with full disclosure requirements. Your choice completely. I finished the whiskey. Considering the tactical options available, quick settlement meant I could transition cleanly to whatever came next, start fresh somewhere else without legal complications. Arbitration meant dragging this through formal proceedings, public documentation, possible media attention if the numbers were large enough to attract business journalists. But it also meant accountability. Rick and Patricia had made a decision based on arrogance and inadequate intelligence gathering. In the Navy, that kind of leadership failure carries consequences, not quiet reassignments to face-saving positions. I want full contractual enforcement, I said finally, not a negotiated settlement, the honor clause as written and signed. Jerry, plus formal acknowledgement from Rick that the termination was procedurally improper. Not an apology, I'm not interested in his personal feelings. Just professional acknowledgement of the error in judgment. Helen was quiet for a long moment, probably calculating how that would play with a board of directors who were already questioning their CEO's competence. The board might support that approach. Rick definitely won't. Then Rick needs to decide how much his pride is worth to Blackstone's shareholders. She poured another finger of whiskey into both glasses. There's something else you should know. Patricia's been telling people that you were already underperforming, that the termination was performance-related rather than financial. That was interesting intelligence. Patricia was trying to construct a post hoc justification for their decision, probably hoping to create documented cause that might void the honor clause protections. My performance reviews for the past 11 quarters are all rated exceeds expectations or higher, I said. Plus, I just closed the Henderson portfolio 3 weeks ago. That's $47 million in new business, with projected annual returns of 8-9 is $12 million. Hard to characterize that as underperformance, I know. Which is why Patricia's narrative isn't gaining traction with anyone who matters. What about Rick's position with the board? Helen swirled the whiskey in her glass, choosing her words carefully. Let's say his decision-making authority is under review. The board hired him to grow the company profitably, not to create multi-million-dollar legal liabilities through poor judgment. That was corporate speak for Rick's about to get thrown overboard to protect the company. The board would prefer resolution without public arbitration, she continued. But they're not willing to let Rick's mistakes expose them to larger financial risks. I understood the subtext. Helen wasn't just negotiating a settlement. She was managing a leadership crisis that could affect Blackstone's reputation with clients, investors, and the broader financial services industry. What's your timeline for resolution? Rick wants to drag this out, hoping you'll accept a reduced settlement to avoid legal costs. The board wants it finished within 72 hours, before quarterly earnings calls begin. Smart. Corporate earnings season meant heightened media attention and analyst scrutiny. Nobody wanted to explain a $2 million legal settlement to investors who were expecting profit growth. Here's my final position, I said. Full contractual payout as specified in Section 12D. Rick's written acknowledgement of procedural failure, and I want it processed within 48 hours, and if Rick refuses. Then we proceed to formal arbitration, and I'll be discussing this situation with my son Jake, who's finishing his JD at Georgetown and has some very interesting connections in financial journalism. Helen's eyes sharpened. That was a threat she understood. Not just legal proceedings, but potential media exposure that could damage Blackstone's carefully cultivated reputation. I'll present your terms to the board this afternoon. Appreciate the professional courtesy. We shook hands again, and I walked out of Sterling's Steakhouse, knowing that the next 48 hours would determine whether Rick Callahan learned the difference between commanding authority and earning respect. 3 days later, my phone rang while I was reviewing job offers at my kitchen table. Not Helen Foster this time, Vincent Patterson, board member and fellow Navy veteran who'd served on destroyers during the same period I was on the Constellation. Jerry, this is Vince Patterson. We need to talk. Vince, good to hear from you. What's the situation? His voice carried the same command authority I remembered from our brief overlap at Norfolk Naval Base 15 years ago. The board met in emergency session yesterday. Rick's been reassigned to strategic advisory, essentially a face-saving exile with no operational authority. Patricia submitted her resignation this morning, citing personal career opportunities. I twisted my class ring once, processing the intelligence. And my contractual situation. Full payout authorized $5.2 million wired to your designated account within 24 hours. Rick's written acknowledgement of procedural failure is being drafted by legal as we speak. That was faster resolution than I'd anticipated. Corporate boards move quickly when their fiduciary liability is on the line. There's something else, Vince continued. I'm calling because Coastal Capital Management has an opportunity that might interest you. Partner track mid-market acquisitions based out of Charleston. The kind of operation where military leadership experience actually counts for something. Coastal Capital, I'd heard good things, boutique investment firm specializing in $50, $200 million deals, reputation for integrity in an industry that often forgot what that word meant. Charleston was appealing too, close enough to the ocean that I could smell salt air when the wind was right. What's the mission profile? Building their business development program from the ground up, similar to what you accomplished at Blackstone, but with equity partnership instead of employee status. They want someone who understands both the financial mechanics and the relationship building that makes deals actually work. Timeline? They'd like to meet with you next week. I may have mentioned that you were available due to Blackstone's recent leadership changes. I had to smile at that diplomatic phrasing. I'll consider it seriously. Good. One more thing, Jerry. What you did here, the way you handled this situation, that's the kind of strategic thinking we need more of in senior leadership positions. Rick learned an expensive lesson about honoring commitments. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen looking out at the small garden my ex-wife had planted before our divorce 5 years ago. The roses were still blooming, somehow thriving despite my complete lack of gardening skills. Some things are more resilient than they appear. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake, Dad. Just heard Rick Callahan got demoted at Blackstone. Word around Georgetown is that someone played him perfectly. Wasn't you, was it? I typed back, your old man just enforced a contract, son. Nothing more complicated than that. His response came immediately. Can I call you tonight? I'm thinking about military JAG after graduation. Want to talk about leadership and integrity in professional environments. That message meant more to me than the $5.2 million payout. Jake had watched his father navigate corporate politics for his entire life. But this was the first time he'd seen those military values actually prevail in a civilian environment. 2 weeks later, I was standing on the balcony of Coastal Capital's Charleston offices, looking out over the harbor where I'd once served patrol duty on Weekend Liberty from the Constellation. Different uniform now, but the same principles of navigation. Respect the currents, understand the weather patterns, and always know your position relative to safe harbor. The partnership agreement was straightforward. Equity participation, operational authority, and a compensation structure that rewarded long-term thinking instead of quarterly performance theater. Most importantly, it was a team where military leadership experience was viewed as an asset rather than an outdated curiosity. Marcus Webb, Coastal's managing partner, had served as a Marine captain in Afghanistan before transitioning to finance. Sarah Walsh, their head of due diligence, was former Air Force intelligence. The company culture understood that military training translates directly to business success when you're dealing with complex negotiations and high-stakes decision-making. The Henderson portfolio transfer went smoothly. Marcus reported during our first strategy meeting, "Client decided to follow you here rather than stay with Blackstone's transition team." That wasn't entirely surprising. Relationship-based business development means clients trust individuals, not institutional letterheads. When you've spent months building personal credibility that follows you wherever the mission takes you. 6 months into the Coastal Capital partnership, I received an email that made me pause mid-coffee. Subject line, professional reference request. Sender, Rick Callahan. The message was brief and formally polite. He was interviewing for a senior advisor position at a smaller firm and wanted to know if I'd provide a professional reference regarding his leadership capabilities and strategic judgment. I stared at that email for a long time, thinking about betrayal and accountability and the difference between forgiveness and enabling poor leadership. In the end, I wrote back, "Rick, I'd be happy to provide an accurate assessment of our working relationship and your decision-making process during my tenure at Blackstone. I assume that's what you're looking for." He never responded. Last month, Jake called with news that changed everything about how I viewed this entire experience. "Dad, I got accepted into the Navy JAG program. 2 years of additional training, then active duty as a military attorney. What changed your mind about civilian law practice? watching how you handled the Blackstone situation. The way you used preparation and integrity to beat people who thought they could win through manipulation and shortcuts. That's the kind of lawyer I want to be. I twisted my class ring once, looking out at Charleston Harbor where container ships navigated the same channels I'd learned 25 years ago. Your grandmother always said that honor isn't about never falling down. It's about what you do when someone tries to push you down. She was right. And Dad, thanks for showing me what that looks like in practice. After we hung up, I sat in my office thinking about mission accomplishment and leadership legacy. Rick Callahan had taught my son more about integrity than any textbook ever could, by demonstrating exactly what happens when you abandon it for short-term advantage. The honor clause had cost Blackstone $5.2 million and 2 senior executives, but it had earned something more valuable than money. Proof that preparation and principle still matter in a world that often rewards neither. Some victories you measure in dollars. Others you measure in the lessons they teach the next generation. Both kinds matter, but only one builds character that lasts. In corporate warfare, the best defense isn't avoiding conflict, it's being so well prepared that your enemies defeat themselves when they attack you. True leadership legacy isn't measured by the battles you win, but by the principles you pass down to those who will fight the next generation's wars.